What do you think of when you hear the word transformation? Change? Transformation Tuesday on social media? Or even how people change, whether they're real or not? Transformation is defined as the act, process, or instance of changing in character or condition. What if I told you math, more specifically geometry, had transformations too? It's not the same as solving a problem and getting an answer. It is shapes actually transforming. The four transformations in geometry are translations, reflections, rotations, and dilations. Today we will start out with reflections and translations. Let's start with reflections. What comes to mind when you think of a reflection? When we look in the mirror, we see our reflection. One way to remember what a reflection is that its object being reflected is flipped. It does not change shape. You can look at a reflection as folding your paper in half and seeing that the images match. One of the biggest mistakes students make is just drawing the same figure. When you reflect an object, it faces the other direction. Let's check out some examples here. You can see the fish is reflected. It has not changed its shape, and it is facing the other direction. The pencil is doing the same thing. The pencil is a good example in that your shapes will not always be horizontal. Just remember, it is still a mirror image. Now we're going to look at a great world example of a reflection. Have you ever stood at a pond, lake, river, or pool and seen your reflection? You appear upside down. Here is a city that is being reflected into a body of water. The size and the shapes of the buildings did not change. They are just upside down. The water is causing the reflection. Here is another great real-life example of reflection. This mountain is being reflected by the water also. Once again, you can see the shape does not change. You can even see the clouds reflected in the water. It is all upside down, but the same shape. This is important to note for other transformations you will learn later on. Remember how I said that a reflection is a flip? Does that look like what happened here in the mountain and the clouds? Now we're going to start on translations. They also don't change shape. They slide along the coordinate plane. So here's another keyword to remember, slide. As you can see here, the worm has slid over to the right and down. It did not change shape and it did not flip. Here is a real-life example of a translation. This can be an example of a checkered flag in a race. The white and the black squares do not change shape. They just slide to a different position to create a pattern. This also can be said for a checkerboard. The shapes stay the same, they just slide around the board. What other games can you think of where translation takes place? Now it's time to get into some questions to review. What kind of transformation is shown here? Who guessed the translation? Well, you are right. The snake did not change shape, it just moved or slid. Okay, we've got another one here. What transformation do you think this is? If you said reflection, you are correct. As you can see here, they are flipped. They are facing opposite directions, but they did not change size. Okay, let's take a minute to look at this question. Which picture shows the translation? We're going to start with the image in the top corner. Is A the translation? B or C? If you said A, you are correct, because all it did was slide. B actually turned, which is a rotation. However, that's something that we haven't gone over yet. C is a reflection, because it has flipped. Alright, let's read over this question. What's another name for flip? What did I say a flip was? A flip is a reflection. That's one of those key words that you need to remember. What is another name for a slide? It's a translation. Once again, one of those key words that you need to know. Transformations are a concept that you will learn for several years. Later on, you'll learn about rotations, dilations, and also how the coordinates change in these transformations. That's why it's so important to understand what each transformation is. Just remember for now, a translation is a slide and a reflection is a flip. Also, they will not change shapes.